Hi, how are you? Welcome back to another segment of Coffee and Connections with the Chief. I'm Chief Dean Rondo with the Wolfeboro Police Department, and to my left is my able-bodied Executive Officer, Captain Mark Livy. And so we're into the month of January. It's hard to believe that a year has gone by so quickly, and we're into 2020. It seems like only yesterday. So we're into yet another long winter. This one is certainly shaping up to be a long winter. It's been very cold out there, and that's one of the first things I want to talk about. So even though we've had some cold temperatures, and it looks like we had some cold temperatures right from the very beginning of late fall, it takes an awful lot of cold weather days to really freeze up the lake ice. And we live on Lake Winnipesaukee. We got Lake Wentworth, and then you got another number of smaller ponds and bodies of water and tributaries and rivers and so forth and so on. And I understand that winter sports like snowmobiling and cross-country skiing and four-wheeling and ice fishing are really part of our culture and part of our makeup, and that's what we enjoy doing up here in the North Country. You got to be really careful, folks, about taking heavy equipment out onto the bodies of water. My recommendation is call Fish and Game. Right, this is their domain. This is their purview. Call them. Find out if the ice is safe enough. They monitor the ice. They track the ice thickness, and be knowledgeable and be aware that even if you have 1 or 2 days of cold temperature and the ice is thick enough, 1 or 2 days of warm-up could really diminish that ice pack. And now the ice is not, even though you may have been out on it a week ago or 2 or 3 days earlier and it was plenty thick, it could not, it may not be thick enough to support the weight of a vehicle or a four-wheeler or a snowmobile or even the weight of a human body. So you got to really pay attention, because I'll tell you right now, that water is very cold, and if anybody's ever jumped into water that's in the 30s, it is absolutely paralyzing. I did it in the military. It's absolutely paralyzing. It really takes the wind right out of you. You just seize right up, and it is very, very cold, and you're prospect of surviving something like that is not good. So please be safe out there. That's what I want. I want you to be safe. I want you to be knowledgeable about the conditions. You keep your eye on the weather. Contact Fish and Game if you're planning on an ice fishing journey, or you want to take your vehicle out onto one of the ice packs, and you want to do some fishing or whatever it is that you want. You want to bring your Bob house out there, whatever the case may be. Just be safe about it, because if you go in the water, or if a vehicle goes in the water, ultimately it may require divers going in. And I am a diver, and I will tell you that water is really cold, and it's very, very dangerous to put divers in water that is that cold, even though we have dry suits and other pieces of equipment and apparatus to mitigate some of those dangers. It's still a dangerous proposition to put divers below the ice, and so just keep that in the back of your mind. We don't want one tragedy turning into a multiple tragedy. So please, I can't belabor that enough. The other thing I just do want to talk about in the winter is winter driving, and just you have to go a little bit slower. You have to leave a little bit earlier, especially when it's been bad weather, or we have bad weather coming in. You can't drive like the roads are dry and it's the middle of July and the bluebird of happiness is out. Because that is simply not the situation. You can't stop any faster with a four-wheel drive vehicle than you can with a two-wheel drive vehicle. And once you get snow and ice build up on the asphalt, it lowers the coefficient of friction value of the roadway. That's why you slide. That's why you're not stopping fast enough. So please remember that the traveling dynamics, the road dynamics change when we put snow and ice on those roads. You simply cannot stop fast enough if you're driving like it's the middle of the summer. So you got to pay attention. You got to slow down. That being said, moving on to basically what's been consuming almost 100% of my time for the last several months now has been the preparation of the budget and preparation of the warrant articles and everything that goes into that. And so we're squarely in the middle of that budget process. The next big meeting coming up will be the town deliberative session, which is scheduled for 4 February. And that is posted on the town's website, so you're going to want to check that. And that will be at the Great Hall. And an awful lot of hard work has gone into this year's preparation of the budget. And I know all my fellow department heads and members of the Budget Committee and the Board of Selectmen and the Police Commission have really anguished over this year's budget on many different levels. And I'm not saying that because it's a bad thing. I'm saying it's because it's a very good thing. There's an awful lot of hard work that went into this budget, and I hope you would support the budget as it's presented. I hope you would support the town's operating budget in particular, because that's critically important. That provides us the resources we need, not just in the police department to do our job, but the resources needed by all the town departments to do their collective jobs. And it's very, very important. And failure to pass that town operating budget is really very crippling to the town. It's not a wise or expeditious thing to do in terms of voting that down. It's crippling, and it's actually more expensive in the long run. So I would hope that you would support that. But as always, please vote your conscience and do what you feel is right in your heart. When you see the various members of our town electorate and the town body, the Board of Selectmen, the Budget Committee members, and so forth, and all the members of the various committees, the CIP Committee and the Master Planning Committee, just please, give them an opportunity to, and thank them. Just let them know how much you appreciate their hard work. They really did do an awful lot of hard work. There is a lot of good discussion, frank, honest discussion that occurs not just in these committee meetings, but also in the deliberative hearings with the various department heads. That happens, and that's good. That's very good, and that's good governance. And so again, a lot of hard work has gone into this budget. I think it's a good budget. I know I'm going to support it, and I would hope that my fellow citizens do the same thing. So having said that, I'm going to turn it over to the captain now for his operational update on the PD. Captain?
Hey, thanks, Chief. Before I get into the operational part, I just want to make one point. So the week prior to Christmas, we had a snowstorm. Maybe 4 inches or so, I believe, outside there. But it snowed all day. So the roads were, and to keep up with it from that snow all day, there was some ice on it, there was some snow on it. It made it very slippery. So I just want to get it out there. Prepare yourself for those conditions. Drive slow. Prepare your tires. Get those winter tires out there. We live up here in New England on the Lakes region, where the snow comes in and the ice comes in and it freezes underneath there. So those snow tires do help. All-wheel drive is awesome, but it's not going to stop you on an icy road. So, I mean, we had probably 8 or 9 vehicles, some crashes, some rollovers, and some vehicles just off the roadway. But it was a busy day on that day with the snow that came down for our officers. So I just want to get that out there. Prepare yourself for those snowy days. Try to stay in. If you don't have to go out, stay inside. Do everything that you need to do the following day. Look at the weather. Prepare your vehicles for it, especially those tires. Make sure they're not bald. Make sure you get snow tires on there. That's a world of difference out there on the roadway. So let's get into the operational part. So with the police department on January 4th, we have a physical agility test that's coming up here for our new officer. As of today, I have 58 resumes that have come in to take that physical agility test, which is pretty exciting for us. So it will be that will be a busy day for all of our officers on that day, and I want to thank Brewster Academy for allowing us to use the gym, the indoor track. Because if we had to run outdoors, it would be a tricky adventure for those new recruits. They'd really get a taste of what it is like up here. So, but So what happens from that point? And so, I mean, you can't interview all 56. Resumes. So how I prepare that is basically you'll have a question as you come in. The new candidates fill it. They have a one sentence question, maybe 200 words or less. They'll fill that out, and then they move over to your push-ups, and it's all based on age. And so you got to do the amount that's necessary by the police academy, and then you do the sit-ups, which is the same criteria, and then a 1.5 mile run, which we get to use that indoor track, which will make life a lot easier for all of us and the candidates on that day. So from that point in, we'll take their resumes, we'll take their the initial writing that they do that day, and then we'll narrow it down to a 2-day oral board. How many we have that day is based on how many we choose. We really haven't finalized that yet. We have some time before that comes across us. So it looks like the oral board will probably be that following week, because we're trying to get this all in for the next academy, which I believe is in April or May. But before they go into that academy, I mean, they got to take a PT test for the police academy down there, which I believe is in April. But prior to that, we like to get them on board, so they're driving around with the officers, getting familiar with the town, meeting all you guys, everyone in town, so you guys are familiar with them. Understanding the geographical areas of, I mean, all the stores. I mean, the North Wolfeboro, the South Wolfeboro. You just got to familiarize yourself with the town, the area, and the calls that do come in during that periods of times. I mean, we might be dealing with some assaults, some domestics, some DWIs. So he's got a familiarization of what's going to happen to him as he gets out of the academy, and he's going to be performing this job on a day-to-day basis. But it helps him when he's got the testing, when he goes into the academy for the 16 weeks, that these tests do come up, that he's been to these calls. He's got a better understanding of it. It makes it a lot easier, and that's what we did with our last Officer Church, who graduated on December 20th. So congratulate to him that he'll be out there. So check our Facebook out for that. You'll see him on the graduation day on December 20th. He graduated at 2 p.m. So so he'll be out on FTO with 3 officers in a period of time of 10 weeks. So by March 1st, he'll be out by himself. So that's what we're looking forward to, that, seeing that, get him through all this training period. So as you say, he started in July. He's finally by himself by March. So it's an investment. It's a process, exactly. So other than that, with dispatch, nothing new in dispatch. Everyone's the same. Everything's moving good. We're getting to the new year, so it's a new budget, as the chief has mentioned. So we're going to get some more training in there, department trainings, and move on from there. So other than that, that's all I got for you for this month. For next month, we'll get out the yearly statistics of 2019, and I'll go back 2018, 2017, so you can compare it and see how we're moving in 2019. But I can tell you, I have printed them lately, and the incidences and the arrests are all up. I would say almost 40 to 45 incidents compared to last year. So we're busy. There's no doubt about that. So, but I'll pass it back to the chief.
Thanks. I just want to talk a little bit about the academy and the academy training, and just so our folks, our viewers, have a real idea what happens on this. So first of all, there's one police academy in the state of New Hampshire. It's down in Concord. It's called Police Dance and Training, and that's where the training occurs. It is a paramilitary style academy. Everybody goes, whether you're in the state police or you're you're a constable way up north in one of the smaller towns north of us. Everybody goes to that academy. Everybody has to graduate from that academy. And it's a licensing process, actually. If in quite simply, that's what happens. Once you graduate that, you're issued a certificate and to be a police officer, and that's your license, if you will, to work, just like an electrician or a plumber and so forth and so on. And then we're required to have so many hours of training post academy, either back at the police academy or some other venue to maintain our certification. The basic academy, the recruit class, the recruit academy, what the captain is talking about, is 16 weeks long. It's both academically and physically demanding and challenging, and it's not easy. And I'm not saying that because I'm a graduate. I'm saying that because it's the truth. It is not an easy program. It is not a gentleman's course. You're going to work really hard. I found it academically challenging, and I consider myself a fairly smart individual. And it is physically demanding. And there's a purpose behind that. I'm not going to get into what that is. I think you can probably all understand that. Additionally, once the individual graduates from the academy, they then go into an FTO program. Every department has a little bit different spin on their FTO program, and FTO is field training officer, so they're now married up with a variety of sergeants and supervisors that now work with that raw recruit who has recently graduated from the academy, is now a rookie police officer, and they take him through the paces of how things are done in Wolfeboro. Now, our program is 12 to 16 weeks long. So if you really look at this, you're talking anywhere from 32 to 36 weeks, 34 to 36 weeks of training before that officer gets out on the road and is operating by himself. And even after that happens, that officer is heavily supervised for an additional 3 or 4 months until we're reasonably certain that he or she is not a liability. So this is a real process, and there's an awful lot of training. And as the captain said, this is definitely an investment. This is a huge investment in time that we make into a new individual. So we'd like to get it right the first time, because when we don't, it is a lot of wasted time occurs in here, which we try to minimize. So that being said, the recruit class at the academy is long and it's demanding. Relative to the PT test, we put our prospective recruits through a very physically demanding PT test. And just so you know, we're not looking for exit standards. We're just looking for what we call entry standards. The best way to train for that PT test, and PT stands for physical training, is to do push-ups, sit-ups, and a 3-mile run. The run at the academy is only 1.5 miles. But the way to train for that is to do push-ups, sit-ups, and a 3-mile run every other day. And when you get up to 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups, and you're doing a 3-mile run in somewhere around 15 to 20 minutes, then I would say that you're in good enough shape to take the PT test. So if you do have a loved one or a family member that wants to be a police officer, they have to be physically fit. There's just no question about that. That is your first hurdle that has to be cleared, is that PT test, and that washes out. And I suspect out of these 56 or 58 candidates, we'll wash out over half will fail the PT test. And it's and ladies and gentlemen, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. I still do 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups every other day. And though my run times have dropped tremendously, I still get out and run. So if I can do it, and I'm 56 years old, a young lad or a young lass who wants to be a police officer certainly should be able to get out there and crank out 40 to 50 push-ups, 40 to 50 sit-ups, and do a reasonable time in a 2-mile run. These standards are unyielding. They are set by the Academy, and the individuals have to meet them in order to gain entrance. So they're not my standards, they are the Academy standards, and they are demanding. So if you do have somebody that wants to be a recruit, sit-ups, push-ups, and a 3-mile run, we'll get them ready for it. And they got to be disciplined about it. That being said, I want to thank you for tuning in to Coffee and Connections with the Chief. Tune in next month, and we will have the end-of-year statistics. And there's a reason we do the end-of-year statistics in February, and it's because in January we're still finalizing all our calls. So there, again, that's a process. We'll explain that in a little bit more detail, but it takes that long to get all this material finalized and to strike out double calls and so forth and so on. So again, thank you for tuning in to Coffee and Connections with the Chief. I'm Chief Dean Rondeau and Captain Mark Livy. And stay tuned for your safety tip of the month. Thank you very much, and Happy New Year. Hi, how are you? Welcome back to Coffee and Connections with the Chief. I'm Chief Dean Rondeau with the Wolfeboro Police Department, and this is your safety tip of the month. So my personal pet peeve, and I mentioned this in my program earlier, is folks that want to go out onto the lake during the wintertime and take advantage of the lake or the ponds, the frozen bodies of water we have in the state, and whether they want to do ice fishing or cross-country skiing or snowmobiling, pull their bob house out, and whatever the case may be, that's fine. I want you to do that. I want you to be safe while you're doing it. So you got to make sure the ice is thick enough. Back in November, we had a gentleman down in Concord that decided that he wanted to go ice fishing and drove his Jeep out onto the Merrimack River. And that's a moving body of water always. It has to be very cold for the Merrimack to freeze. And, of course, what happened, the Jeep went right through the ice. And though that individual escaped without injury, you now have a vehicle sitting at the bottom of the river. Listen, folks, you got to be careful. You really have to be careful what you're doing out there, all right? And worst case scenario is if a piece of equipment or apparatus, vehicle or snowmobile, four-wheeler can't be recovered, eventually someone's going to have to go down and get it. And that means putting divers in the water, and that's a dangerous proposition in the wintertime. I am a diver. I don't like cold water, and I don't like going under the ice. So do me a favor. Just be careful. If you have any questions, whether the ice is thick enough or not, call Fish and Game. They monitor this, they pay attention to it, and they'll be able to advise you exactly where you want to go and be able to tell you if the ice is thick enough to support whatever piece of equipment you want to take out there. As always, keep your eye on the weather. Dress for the weather, dress for conditions, drive for the conditions. That's very important. January, February, March are snowy months, sloppy months, and you're not going to stop any faster with four-wheel drive than you will with two-wheel drive. So there you have it. Those are the safety tips of the month for January. As always, Happy New Year. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I am Chief Dean Rondeau with your safety tip of the month, and please join us for our next session in February for Coffee and Connections with the Chief. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.